What's up, everybody? Jonathan here, and today we got a bit of a different video. I've been asked to show a video detailing kind of how I have my JoyToKey program set up. And as you can see here on the screen, I've got Farming Simulator 17 in windowed mode, so I can kind of switch back and forth between JoyToKey and Farming Simulator. But if you look here on JoyToKey, the first thing we need to do is kind of look at this and see what this is all about. Now, I've already got several different profiles set up. You can do a new profile. Just go to File and then New, and you can type in a new name. And we may do that in a minute. I'm not sure, but I was just going to kind of go through the program itself first. Here on this little where I got Game, Gold Rush, all this. This is where all your profiles show up. I think you can have probably as many as you want to. I'm not sure if there's a limit or not. I don't really mess with the settings too much. Let me see, did I miss anything on file? Well, of course you got, save, rename, copy, delete, all this standard sort of stuff here under file. Under settings, you have preferences. Like I said, I've never really messed with this, so you probably won't need to either, but you might just want to check that out. Configure joysticks, that's if you want to calibrate your joysticks. I bought one of my joysticks used on eBay, and it works about 90%. It kind of every once in a while I have to recalculate it, so you can do that here. Just go to configure joystick devices and configure joystick property. Pulls up this little window. And you can see here I've got a Logitech Attack 3, which is my suspect, my 90% joystick. And then I've got a brand new Logitech Extreme 3D Pro, which is my right joystick. And I've got a Logitech Gamepad F310 controller. And so you can do your calibrations and stuff here. I think you just go to properties, properties, and then go through all that stuff. But anyway, so that's where that's at. I have no idea what the suspend is. I don't know what that is. And of course, you got a help menu with some overviews and frequently asked questions, things like that. All right, so the actual setup itself. Let's see here. We'll just go with the game one. The game. Well, I do have some sort of a set up there. I'll tell you what, we'll just go the new one. We'll go new, and then we'll go test. Okay, so we got us a brand new blank one here. And so the way you kind of get started is, let's say, just for the sake of this little demonstration, let's say that I wanted to set up some buttons on my right joystick. So let me see here. Just trying to see. It says 3 joysticks. Okay, so I got to figure out which one is my right joystick first of all. And it's not that one. Well, okay, so that's my gamepad. And I'm guessing, for some reason my right joystick, I had to reset that a minute ago. I had to plug it, unplug it, and plug it back in. So, okay, well, I'll tell you what. Let's just go with this one here, this left joystick. So we'll just look at the buttons for right now. I mean, well, okay. Before we jump into that, let me just back up here real quick. Okay, so actually in Farming Simulator, if you wanted to set up joysticks and gamepads and things, you go over here to Options, and under Options, and then this Controls 2, you've got your controllers are all listed here. So there's Logitech Attack 3, my Extreme 3D Pro, and my Logitech Gamepad. Now, whenever you go back over here to Controls, you see under Gamepad, a lot of these things are already set up. And once it detects a gamepad, you can load in the defaults, or maybe it just automatically does. I can't remember now. It's been so long. And then you can you can also reset, whatever button you want to do. So like right now, if I were to hit something on my gamepad, then it would set that to whatever button I pressed. And you can see here I've got, like, some of these have like this one, I think it's the right bumper in B, directional pad up, so it just automatically kind of sets some of these things for you. And now some of these have numbers in these little brackets. That means what joystick or device is mapped to that particular gamepad option. So some of these have a 3, some have a 2. That means that I've got, like, and here's some 1s, so I've got different joysticks mapped to different things. And you see there's a bunch of stuff in here, but anyway, that's kind of where that is. So what I was going with that was, whenever you're setting up things here in JoyToKey, if you don't have something like, see these say disabled because nothing's mapped to them yet, well, you can have that in JoyToKey because it's still mapped over here in Farming Simulator. So whenever you're using JoyToKey, if you have nothing mapped in JoyToKey, but you have something set over here in Farming Simulator, it'll default to the Farming Simulator. It doesn't default to nothing, so that's the way to do it. Okay, so let's look here at, I'll put my cursor right above button 1. Button 1 is my trigger on my left joystick. So let's say for some reason I wanted to map that to the cut function, let's say on a processor. Alright, so what you do is you figure out in Farming Simulator what operates the cut function. Usually it's X. Alright, so what I'm going to do is you double click on button 1, it pulls up this window. Alright, so you've got either disabled, keyboard 2 if you had a keyboard, some kind of keyboard emulator or something. I don't have that, so I'm not going to worry about that. And then mouse is, like, say if you wanted to set it to the left mouse click, then you just check that, click OK, you're done. But in this case, since we're going to map it as our cut function on the processor, we need to go over to keyboard, and you just simply type in an X and then hit OK. So now you see we've got button 1 mapped to X, which when we're in the processor and have the processor turned on, then when you click that button while you have this particular profile open in JoyToKey, it would cut the tree. Let's say we wanted to go with button 2. What is button 2? I think that's right in the middle. That's button 3. Okay, there's button 2 right there. Okay, so let's say button 2, we wanted to have the claws open on the processor. Alright, so I think I happen to know that the claws on the processor, I believe it is left and right mouse buttons. I better not say for sure. Let me hop over here to my test map and get the music turned out of my ears. But anyway, the whole process of this is you have to know what mouse functions, what keyboard functions operate the particular thing you're trying to map in JoyToKey. So you have to know, is it the right mouse button and you move it up and down? Is it the left mouse button and you move it left to right? Whatever mouse. Is it the number 9 on the keypad that does something, number 6 on the keypad, something like that. You have to know what's doing what in order to map something to JoyToKey. Let me see. Okay, here we go. This is what I was going to operate. Alright, so we got the grapple loader, and so with the joysticks, of course, moving my left joystick moves the cab left and right, and moving the left joystick out moves the stick up and back, and then we got the boom up and down. But the claws, okay, so the claws, and you can see here my left joystick needs to be calibrated again. It's kind of slightly moving down, but anyway, so the claws on this grandpa loader, if you hold down the left and mouse buttons and move the mouse up and down, it opens and closes the claws. So that's left mouse button, right mouse button, and then up and down on the mouse itself. So let's see if we go back to JoyToKey. So let's say that on this particular machine we wanted to map that button 2 to close the claws. Okay, so closing the claws again, let's look and get and see, is left and right mouse button, and then you pull it down. So alright, so left mouse button, right mouse button, and we're pulling the mouse towards us. Okay, so that's closing the claws. Alright, so let's go back to JoyToKey. And so we double click and we go over to mouse, and the cursor movement is we got to go down, so put it all the way down to the bottom on this little slider, and then we're going to go over here and do left and right. So mouse click left, right, and then slider here down, and that should close the claws. Alright, so I've got that mapped to button number 2 on my left mouse, or left joystick. Alright, so let's go back in game, and using the mouse, I'm going to left and right click and go up to open the claws. Now I'm going to go over to my left joystick, and I'm going to hit the button number 2, and see the claws closed. And I have nothing else, you know, mapped to it. Well, I got some buttons mapped there, but you get what I'm saying. That you have to figure out in game what function you're wanting to map to JoyToKey and how it works before you can do it in JoyToKey, obviously. So let's say we wanted to map a key on our, or a button on our joystick that starts the engine. Okay, so starting the engine, I believe, is enter. Yep. Okay, so let's go back into JoyToKey. And let's say that we want to use button number 3 right here. Button 3, let's say we want to map that to start our engine. So you see we're here already on keyboard, that's kind of default. All we got to do is hit enter and then hit OK. You see it's entered there. And we go back in game, and now we're going to start the engine. Alright, you can turn it off, it's on and off. Alright, so let's see, what else do we need to do? You know, pretty much once you plug in a gamepad, it's kind of already set. I mean, I'm moving the camera, and I remember we're still on this blank JoyToKey profile, but we still got things set up in Farming Simulator. If there's nothing set up on the JoyToKey that's disabled for that particular you know, joystick or button or directional pad on the gamepad or whatever, it defaults to Farming Simulator. And so you know, I really don't know if there's much else we can do about that. Now the other thing you need to be concerned about is, let me look at my skidder. Yeah, okay, so I've got, you see I've got 4 joysticks set up for my skidder. The problem I had with the skidder was to open and close the grapple, I wanted to set it up to where I could hit the bumper button on my keypad, or on my bumper button on my gamepad. And you see how it's highlighting button number 5? That's my left bumper on my gamepad, and you see how it says use joystick number 4 configuration. So let's go over here to joystick number 4. Alright, so the only thing I've got mapped on this joystick number 4, which by the way is kind of a it's kind of a phantom, kind of a ghost joystick, because I don't actually have 4 joysticks enabled. It's just what I'm doing is when I'm hitting the bumper button on my gamepad, it says use joystick number 4 configuration, and joystick number 4 configuration is well, of course my mouse is going to move, but it's my right stick on my gamepad. So as you see, I'm moving the mouse with my gamepad, but it's mouse right, or excuse me, mouse left and right click. That's how I've got it set up. So if we were to hop in the skidder with a grapple skidder, and we were to press the right mouse button and move our cursor left, move our mouse to the left, I think that opens the grapple. And then if we were to right click our mouse and move the mouse, to the right, I think that closes the grapple. So I didn't want to use the mouse, I wanted to use the gamepad, but the only way to do that was to set up a shift function, really is what it is. Because see that it says shift function, switch to a virtual joystick mapping while a button is pressed. So you can set it up to where, I don't know, if you wanted to close the grapple and move the cab at the same time or something, set up two different functions. You could do it that way with the JoyToKey. So I don't know if there's really a whole lot else to say about that. I mean, you just kind of have to know, and it's a lot of repetition of, hopping between JoyToKey and Farming Simulator and finding out what works. That's kind of the way I figured it out. Is I would just move my mouse in Farming Simulator and say that moved something on my machine. I was like, okay, well, I right clicked and moved my mouse up. So that's when you kind of go over here and you set it to mouse, right click, and then up, so that's like I said, it's just a lot of repetition of trying to figure out what works and how to map it to make it do what you want to. Now there are some other little things. You can change your mouse cursor speed while the button is pressed. So if you wanted the claws to open really fast, you could move it to, like, say 200%, or if you wanted to open them really slow, you can move it to 50%. I know I was watching one of FDR's latest videos, and he was talking about how on his new processor, that Jekyll processor, the claws open really slow and close really slow. I kind of like it, but he says some people don't like that. Here's where you can adjust it. So, like, there's 100% right there. Let's say you wanted it to go a little bit faster, so you can move it up to, like, say 150%, and it opens 50% faster. So that's kind of what you can do there. And there's also an analog acceleration, which I think what this is it says towards maximum input accelerate by 4 times. So I believe this is, like, say if you were, like, say the trigger button on your gamepad, if you were to press the trigger, I think it would just operate faster. This is adjust mouse cursor speed while the button is pressed. So this is like, moving your mouse. Like if you've got those DPI settings on your mouse, you can press it and it makes it go really fast or really slow. That's kind of what this is. This, I believe, is how quickly it gets to, how quickly the button's pressed and how quickly it gets to the maximum, input. There's some other stuff in here. I never mess with all this. You just auto repeat. I don't know that anybody would really need to mess with that. Mouse 2 is I've actually had to mess with this a little bit, and I can't remember exactly. I think this was like, for some reason the cursor was trying to move on me, and so what I did was I just set it to 0. See, right now it's set to 0, 0, and so, no, actually it's set to 50, 50. 0, 0 is way up here in the top left corner. It's set to 50, 50, so right in the middle. But for some reason, I haven't had a problem with it lately, so I guess either I've set it or it hasn't been a problem. But for some reason, the mouse would just, like, want to shoot off the screen, and so I would set it. I would set up all my controls here on the first mouse tab, get all that set, and then I come over here if it was a problem and see where it says jump cursor to the target position when the button is pressed. you could set this to a specific coordinate, and that way whenever you pressed a button over here, it would not move it would basically set the cursor to a whatever location you had set here. That way it wouldn't like shoot off the screen whenever you press the button. Okay, let's see, special. Oh, that's where you set up your shift function. Yeah, so you could set up a virtual joystick and then have a shift function. Like say this right now, we've got button 6 on joystick number 1 selected. We could actually have it go over to joystick number 4. You can set up delays to switch. I don't mess with that. You could also load to another configuration file. See, I've got all my other profiles under here. I don't know why you'd want to do that unless you were switching back and forth between machines and you wanted to set up a certain key on your keyboard or joystick, I guess in this case, to switch to a different profile. That's kind of interesting. I hadn't thought about that. May have to try that sometime. I've got some other buttons I could map on these joysticks, but alright, so the other important thing is this thing does not, this JoyToKey is pretty clunky sometimes. It doesn't save automatically, so what you have to do is make sure before you close this that you go up to File and hit Save. If you don't, you will lose all your settings if you made changes. So like, let's say we set up button 1 to do something. Just real quick, I'm just going to hit Enter, and we hit OK. Well, I probably shouldn't have done that because I'm on a different profile. Let's go over here to our test. Let's say we set up button 1 to be Enter, and we hit OK. And let's say we were doing something else and we kind of came back to this, we forgot, and we just exited out. Well, you'll lose that. Alright. The other thing that's important is when you're setting up joysticks, and again, I don't know why it says 3 joysticks are detected, but it's only got 2 up here. That's kind of weird. So I don't know what's, and I know what it is. Okay, so you see how it says 3 joysticks are detected, but when you hit refresh, you've only got joystick 1, joystick 2, and then options. Right here, I don't have it set to 3. So if I set that to 3, hit refresh, now we got all 3 of them. So that's something to keep in mind too. Now the other thing to keep in mind is, let's see, which one is, okay, joystick 1 is my gamepad. So on the gamepad, for sure I need to make sure that I'm having show all axes, and then it's probably not a bad idea on the well, I guess that's just for all of them. My bad. That's for all of them. Make sure you set that, because if you don't, you won't have all the options available to you for, like, buttons and left and right, up and down, that kind of stuff on your stick and all that. Let's see, threshold for input. I'm not really sure what this is. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what that is. You can, like I said, configure is how you get to calibrate your joysticks. Yeah, I'm not really sure what some of this is. I mean, it just works for me when I've got it set up. This processor is normally what I use when I'm doing Farming Simulator. If I need to use a grapple skidder, I'll switch to that, and then I'll go back to that. I've got some stuff set up for Gold Rush. I think I've got my gamepad. No, that's joystick 3 there. So joystick 3, I've got mouse up and down with a right click. I think that's mostly for the excavator. And I've got some joystick 2. Okay, yeah, that's joystick 2. I've got some different keyboard functions mapped to, I think this is also excavator controls, maybe dozer controls. But anyway, I really hope that this tutorial helps out a little bit. I know I didn't go into just a whole lot of detail about actually setting it up, but like I say, you just have to kind of know when you're in the game, you have to figure out what does what, and the best way to do it is just to get in there and mess with it and see what works. See, right now I'm using my mouse. Left click up and down moves the boom. Left click and left right moves the cab. The stick is right click up and down. Right click left and right tilts the grapple. Left and right click left and right rotates the grapple. And we've already figured out that left and right up and down opens and closes the claw. Middle mouse button does nothing. So you just gotta kind of get in there and figure out what works. Like I said, when you plug in a gamepad with Farming Simulator, all the defaults are kind of already there. Yeah, I just can't really think of anything else. The thing that kind of baffled me at first with JoyToKey was using the whole shift function, but I kind of went over that a little bit. So anyway, I hope this helps some with JoyToKey and Farming Simulator. If you have any questions, of course, leave me comments below, and I'll try to answer them. But again, I've kind of got mine set up the way I need it, and it works for me. So I'll try to answer any questions you got, but I'm of course no JoyToKey expert. But anyway, thanks for watching, and hope you learned something. And like I say, leave me some comments if you got any questions, and I'll try to answer them as best I can. So anyway, have a good one. Thanks for watching.